and I've known Gary Parent for over 40 years. In the last 30, I've known him as a mentor to my leadership, to my representation. Gary Parent has been my right-hand person, and we've been connected to the hip for the last 30 years.
When I think of Gary Parent, and I think we heard that a few minutes ago, Gary is a mentor. So I think of Gary as somebody who always has an open door, has always had an open door for United Way. He's a leader in the community. We say these words over and over again. He's the kind of person that, he's just all about giving back to the community and making decisions that are good for the community.
I've had the privilege of working with Gary at the United Way Board of Directors, and Gary always has the community first in mind. And all of the decisions that he makes, the community comes first, and those that are most vulnerable in our community are top of mind for Gary. So Gary, in his work, is so committed to building a stronger community that it really is what he espouses and how he acts consistently in all of my experience working with Gary.
Compassion, caring, generous, giving back to the community, giving of his time. That's Gary Parent.
I learned very early on in my working life. I was elected as a shop steward in 1967. And learned from there very quickly on people's needs within the workplace. And they weren't just in the workplace, it expanded outside the workplace. And our president at that time, Charlie Brooks, instilled in all of us as union representatives and leaders within our particular workplaces that the community is much greater than just inside the gates of our workplace, that we had to, as a union, dedicate ourselves to helping those within the community. And so that's where really my roots started in Local 444 and also in the community.
Here's a little story I can tell you, and this goes back, this gets to the kind of what's the right thing to do. Gary was a co-chair of the campaign. Well, he was chair of the campaign many times and on our cabinet numerous times. This particular year was a bit of a struggle, and so he had already made a very, very generous donation to United Way. And then we decided we needed to go back to people and ask, can you dig a little deeper? Can you do a little more? And he quietly brought in a check.
To give once for all was the slogan of the day. It was the Red Feather campaign at the time. And again, like I say, it was instilled in all of us as young representatives at the time that this was our choice. Charity of choice within the community, because at that time I think there was something like 47 or 48 agencies that were involved in United Way. And it was our way of saying to our members that this is your chance to give back to the community.
Well, obviously he was the Secretary-Treasurer of Local 444, the largest local union in Windsor and Essex County. He was the president of the Windsor and District Labor Council for in excess of 20 years and really led the labor community. He obviously chaired the United Way. He sits on multiple boards, the Labor Community Service Board, the Unemployed Help Center. He sits on numerous boards. He sat on bringing our medical facility to the University of Windsor with Teddy Farron and Dwight Duncan. So each and every time something significant happened in our community, whether it was the medical center, whether it was support for the community, Gary was asked to partake and be a true partner in that initiative.
And so there's different things that I've done and was privileged enough to have the support of my membership to allow me to do the volunteering within the community, and the support of my family, obviously, because you have to have support of the family. If you don't have support of that, you've got nothing, because you have to make sure that there's an equal balance. And
even in Gary's retirement, Gary is speaking for those that are most vulnerable in our community. I mean, it is just part of his DNA.
I think that there's no better vehicle within our community than it shows is through the United Way. The United Way has been the instrument where we could show that we can get along. And I think that sometimes we don't get enough credit for business and labor working together. in this community, but sure, no one can question United Way when we put on our campaign of working together to try and make people's lives much better within our boundaries of Windsor and Essex County.
He left a heck of a void, but he continues to inspire based on his experience, based on his work ethic, and still to this day based on his advice.
That it's hard to imagine what our community would look like without Gary. I mean, without those 40 years of giving to the community.
And what I'd like to say to Gary Parent is Windsor and Essex County is a hell of a lot better as a result of your contribution to the United Way and many other organizations in our community.
Thank you for being a leader in our community, and thank you for helping to lead the way.